What else bigger today than, of course, in addition to the stock market crash of over 1%, Asian Paints Q2 results. Suyash, Maheshwari joining me in the studio.
Hi, Kartik.
Take me through the numbers, Suyash. Hi, nice to have you back with us.
Thank you.
How are we doing on numbers? Below expectations?
Yes, the numbers are actually below expectation on all fronts as far as revenue is concerned, profitability is concerned, margin is concerned. Now, profit for the quarter gone by stood at around 1232 crore versus 803 crore in the previous quarter. Now, as per our expectation, profit was expected to rise to about 1287 crore. So, a 4% miss on the profitability front. Revenue for the quarter stood at around 8,479 crore, a 0.3% rise on a year-on-year basis. But from our expectations, it was down about 6%. We had expected revenue to come in just above the 9,000 crore mark. EBITDA, which is the operating profit, was also below our expectations. We were expecting EBITDA to come in at around 1800 crore, but for the quarter it came in at 1717 crore, which on a year-on-year basis is a jump of about 41%, but it's about 4.6% lower than what we had estimated. Margins also came in lower. On a year-on-year basis, they were up about 580 basis points, but about 68 basis points lower than what we were expecting. We had pegged margins to grow at about 630 basis points or so. Now, the company said that the revenue miss could have been because of the impact of the monsoon. They said that the buying that they see during the Diwali season could have been pushed from September to October.
Because of the delayed Diwali
Yes,
itself.
also Diwali is coming in, I think, about 2 weeks later
That's
than
right.
the previous year. So that's why we are seeing a very small 0.3% rise on a year-on-year basis as far as revenue is concerned.
Okay.
The company also talked about constrained profitability as far as its international businesses are concerned. So domestic business is hurt by the sentiment. International business profitability is not coming through for the company.
All right.
So all in all, numbers are not looking good for the company, but the guidance, the company has come out, we'll obviously hear more from them during the earnings con call, which is scheduled at 5 p.m. this evening. But the management, after the initial print, has said that they are optimistic about the demand, given that, festive season and the wedding season is about to kick in. So Q3 will be good, will be better than Q2. And and the overall buoyant economic growth conditions. So as far as Q3 and Q4 are concerned, they are expected to be better than Q2.
All right, let's hope Q3, Q4 numbers come out better, but let's also go across right to Avinash Gorakshakar, who joins us. Avinash Gorakshakar, Director Research, Profitmart Securities, joining us live. Hi Avinash, good to have you back with us. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
So how are you reading the Asian Paints numbers this afternoon, Avinash?
I think broadly, numbers have been in line, but I think the market was expecting a stronger growth in the volume growth for the decorative segment. And as far as margins are concerned, I think the markets would be looking at the outlook on margins very closely once the con call gets, finished. Largely because, competitive intensity in the paint market has increased quite significantly. We got new players like JSW, Grasim who have entered the market. So I think despite a festive kind of period, which is well known, for the third quarter of this financial year, margins are going to be very important. So I think, I would say that the numbers are in line, but I think for a better understanding and more conviction, I think the management commentary and the outlook which would be shared by them would be very important.
Absolutely, and that is expected in a few minutes from now. But let's stay on these numbers, Avinash, and I want to understand from you a revenue rise of just 0.3% versus a net profit rise of 53% upwards. How do you explain this sort of, imbalance between rise in revenue and supernormal rise in profits, and yet you're saying it's below expectations?
See, normally, when you look at the financial performance of any company, I think you've got to correlate it with both the top line growth and the profitability growth. Uh, so in this scenario, revenue has not even grown by 1%, but the profitability has jumped by almost 53%. So, which clearly means that there has been some abnormal, kind of rise in other income, or typically, maybe some certain costs have been eliminated in this quarter. But if you look at a normal quarter, what the market would have expected is a strong value and volume growth in top line, and a reasonably steady growth in the profitability. See, this kind of profitability, honestly, whether the company can sustain it quarter on quarter for the next 2 to 3 quarters
Yeah.
is something which is quite questionable. So I think qualitatively one needs to look into the numbers rather than just looking at the bottom line number.
Absolutely. And I think Diwali around the corner, another, 20 days or so from now. So Q3 numbers should give some sort of, Diwali should give some sort of a fillip to Q3 numbers in your opinion?
Yeah, definitely. See, Q3 has traditionally been a very strong quarter for all the paint companies, and I think obviously rural demand, urban demand picks up quite well during this period. So I think you're going to see a lot of activity, a lot of paint consumption in this period. I think the key crucial factor would be what is the outlook on raw material prices, especially crude oil prices, which has now reached almost $90 a barrel.
Right.
For Asian paints, crude oil price is a very important variable. So I think point number one is what is the price trajectory expected there, and secondly, in terms of the competitive intensity, see we all know that JSW and Grasim have entered the market with
Exactly.
extremely cost competitive kind of prices. So I think we will obviously get to hear all that from the management, but I think this apart, the third quarter should be better than the second quarter.
Right. So while we await, I think management commentary coming in maybe in a couple of minutes from now, it seems that Q3 could see the revenue really bolstering up, but margins being under pressure. But Suyash, how's the stock taking the results that have been announced today?
I mean, before I get to the stock, I think one of the reasons why we are seeing this sort of a beat in profitability is because crude prices softened from a year ago period. I think, we were just coming out of the Ukraine war. The crude prices pretty much throughout Q2 of last year were, trading between the range of $95 to about $110.
Right.
And as we know, crude prices are a big part of raw materials for paint companies.
Pure
about
input cost.
30% or 35% of the entire input cost. So that's why I think we are seeing about a 50% rise in profitability. I mean, I don't know how much of that also comes from the operational efficiencies that the company has created over the year.
Right. Let's talk about the stock. How's the stock being?
As far as the stock is concerned, the Asian Paints stock was down about 2.5% before the results.
Okay.
We saw about 1% decline after the results came out. So in the end, the stock ended at 3.59% lower for the day at 29 and 51. And I'm also looking at the stock compared to other paint manufacturers as well. I think Asian Paints has been a clear underperformer in the last few months or so. I mean, if you look at the 1 month return, Asian Paints is down about 10% so far. Berger Paints, on the other hand, is down about 6%. Nerolac is down about 3% or so. If you look at the 6 months return, Asian Paints has given returns of about 2%. Berger is up 11%.
Okay.
Nerolac is up 26%. So Asian Paints has clearly been an underperformer in the last few months or so. And as Avinash was also saying, Grasim is about to enter the market.
Absolutely. One more big elephant walking into that
And
beautifully
it's aiming for
painted house or yet to be painted house.
And it's aiming for the second spot. So it's definitely going to eat away from some of the market share from Asian Paints because it's at the end of the day the largest player.
Absolutely. So who takes the biggest beating, Avinash? Where are the shots really going to be felt the hardest? Would it be Asian Paints? Would it be Nerolac? Would it be the entire painting block? Or where do you really see the bloodbath really coming in with this new added competition from Grasim?
No, I think my guess is, earlier, there were expectations that Asian Paints would also cut prices. But I think looking at its market leadership, possibly the smaller players like Berger or ICI, these are the typical companies where possibly initially the effect of market competition could come in. And thereafter, as volumes increase for Grasim and JSW, I think you could obviously see that, market share erosion happening for Asian Paints also, because ultimately it's a commodity product. And frankly, looking at the pricing strategy of both JSW and Grasim, we believe that, pricing is going to be a very key element in volume expansion for these new two players.